Year 3 for Thad Matta at Butler, trending upwards. Bring back some key pieces, bring in some new pieces, and we're going to talk about it all here today. I'm Christian, that's Nick, here with my man, MD the Dream, Michael DeRosa, writer for Road to the Garden, covering Butler. Student at Butler, or did you just graduate from Butler?
I just graduated. They kicked me out once I got my piece of paper.
Congratulations. Okay, DeRosa, tell us about what are the vibes of the program? You know, there was some energy in Hinkle last year, some really exciting games, some quality basketball that they've been missing for the past few years, but just not enough to get over that hump, you know, in the middle tier of the Big East. Do you think that happens this year?
I mean, looking at last season, definitely some questions with the backcourt entering this season. You lose Posh Alexander, DJ Davis, both who were, DJ Davis in particular was excellent scoring the ball, Prosh bot leadership. There's some questions there for this year, but overall, I kind of think they're in the same tier-ish. You bring back Telfort and Brooks, the Beefy Boys, as my co-host on a podcast, Tommy, referred to them as. Those guys, excellent. Jamil Telfort, I'm fairly surprised wasn't higher on NBA big boards. And Pierre Brooks, just a great scorer. But I don't know. I still kind of feel like they're in the mid tier, but the vibes of the program are looking up considering the 25 recruiting class, but we are not talking about that today, just talking about this year. So, yeah.
Is the seat at all warm for Thad Matta if this season goes poorly and they don't make the tournament?
As I hinted at, with the recruiting class coming in the 25 class, I think it'd be kind of hard to take it away because that is Butler's best recruiting class ever. You're bringing in, Colt Langdon's going to be on this team, but he's going to redshirt. Then Xavier Robinson, top 100-ish guard. Jack McCaffrey, top 100-ish forward. Those three guys, 3 4-stars, 3 of Butler's highest 5 to 7 recruits all time. So I don't think you could get rid of Thad with those guys coming in.
I was unaware of that. So, yeah, there's no way his seat's warm.
What's the secret to getting all the McCaffreys to Butler?
I don't know, honestly. It's just – I have no idea.
Is there a connection with an assistant coach or something? Do we know?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Well, here's my thing with Butler, right? So last year they were in I call the frisky category of the Big East, which was basically them and Xavier of you're not DePaul and Georgetown. You're not one of these middle teams that should have made the tournament in Providence, Seton Hall, and St. John's. But you're not going to take out the UConn. And Butler did beat Marquette. They smoked Marquette actually, but my concern comes from it feels like gaps were filled, but it doesn't feel like the roster was elevated in a way, right? It's like, is Colby King going to bring more than what DJ Davis or Posh did? Like, I don't think so. And Patrick McCaffrey is a solid player, but like you lose Thomas in the front court, and maybe Bizjack takes that step. You know how I feel about my guy Andre Screen. He's fun. Oh my god, I might have my Andre Screen overlay in here. Can I throw it up? Boom, there it is. But Brooks can obviously score. Telfort's really good. I totally agree with you about the NBA respect that the lack of respect that he got there. But I don't know. To me, it just looks like the same team as last year. Like, so tell me a path where this team does take a bigger step forward.
Yeah, I think really the path is Bizjack taking that jump, being that third leading scorer. I think that'll help take the team forward. I think the depth at the forward positions is much better. You had to run Brooks and Telfort for almost 40 minutes a game. This year, you don't have to do that because Jamie Kaiser, I think, is a fairly underrated piece. I liked his high school tape when he played at IMG. I just think he's solid. Better shooter than he showed last year, and Butler's going to run more offense than Maryland did last year. If you had to watch Maryland games, I'm sorry. They didn't do much of the offense. And then I think Patrick McCaffrey, you kind of know what you're getting in him, but he's going to be a depth piece, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him run some small ball 5, so some sort of that zag when everyone else zigs and runs like standard big lineups. I think I would be surprised if Butler doesn't run McCaffrey at the 5 for decent stretches.
Yeah, here my big thing with Butler this upcoming season, and I was actually astonished to see this when I was looking into him, was under Matta the last 2 seasons, they've only finished ahead of Georgetown and DePaul in the Big East, which I found shocking, to be honest. And then besides that, he's been great in non-con. Like, Matta's picked up some really good non-con wins the last 2 seasons. Like, I remember Texas Tech last year, great non-con win, especially at the time. Year 1, 8-3 non-con. Last year, 9-2 in non-con. So they've built good momentum. And I know the Big East is a great conference and everything, but man, like, only finishing ahead of DePaul and Georgetown was just astonishing to me. So what do you think has to happen for Butler this season to just take that next step in Big East play? And what has Mata really done, that is clicking in non-con where he's just producing win after win, playing really well basketball?
Yeah, they beat Kansas State 2 years back too, the Marquise Noel Canty Johnson team. That came to Hinkle and lost. And if you look at those two teams at the end of the year, I don't know if that game would have been within 20 points the other way. So I don't know. This team's done fairly well gaining momentum in the non-con. They're just kind of ready immediately, but they never really get much better. That team in Mata's first year, they kind of regressed towards the end of the year. Like it was very clear to me that those guys just weren't on the same page to end the season. Jaden Taylor was looking for himself. Seamus was looking for himself. Chuck was already halfway out the door. Then last year, I just kind of think they ran out of gas, truth be told. Those guys were playing a ton of minutes. It was the same starting lineup every game but the game at Creighton when Posh was out and Landon Moore started. But I just kind of think they ran out of gas. And Pierre Brooks in particular, he just wasn't really able to do much other than just kind of stand still and shoot. Posh was much more aggressive in shooting, and just they kind of lost the teamwork that got them to that point. Just some momentum down because they also went through like a tough Big East gauntlet. They just lost all those games, and at that point it was just kind of it. But yeah, and to take the step forward, I think you're going to need something out of Bowden Kapke, and I think you're going to need something out of both Bizjack and Colby King in the backcourt. I have questions with this backcourt. I assume we'll get more on Colby King later, but I don't know. You need Bizjack to take the next step. He showed flashes in the game in Hinkle against Marquette, the game Butler lost. I think he had like 17-ish points. Like he played really well that game. He kept Butler in that game longer than probably they should have been. So you need that. You need that Finley Bizjack back, and Bowden Kapke played well in the Creighton game. There were some murmurs around that they wanted Kapke to start this season in the offseason. They wanted Kapke to start this season very early in the offseason. Seems like that's kind of died down a bit. But you're going to need a good version of Bowden Kapke. You're going to need him to take a step and at least be ready to play legitimate backup minutes.
Well, this is a bit off the beaten path, but I did see over the summer they played Kapke and Bizjack both played on the USA Under-23 3-on-3 thing. Was that kind of like by design, or was that just like kind of like a thing for fun?
I assume it was just kind of a thing for fun. It wasn't something I heard much about. It was those two guys on Princeton and then one D3 kid, if I remember correctly.
Was it Xavier Lee or someone else?
I don't think it was Xavier Lee. It was Pierce and I think it was Peters.
Pierce is good.
Oh, yeah, Blake Peters and Pierce. Yeah, they're both good players.
Yeah, those guys are both good. And
shout out Alec Pierce, 24 fantasy points us. Okay. I mean, to me, the thing that just sticks out like a sore thumb is Colby King coming in. Like St. John's doesn't play, goes to Tulane. Admittedly, I did not watch much Tulane last year. Obviously, his production was better. He shot it better from deep and everything. But like, I just don't see any from the little I do know about him. In what world is he better than Davis or Posh? Like, do you have any optimism that it's possible that he does take a step up and is better than those guys?
There's some flashes. Like if you watch just highlights of Colby King, you'll see those and be like, this guy might average 20 points a game. And then you watch like the actual games and it's just like, it just doesn't show up. Like he'll have against like, I remember looking at his box scores, like the D2 teams. He would always go off against the D2 teams. Like he would torch D2. That guy would be D2 player of the year and then some. But then you see him against legitimate competition. Like FAU, he didn't play great. In the Memphis game, he put up 10 points against like good Memphis defense, but it was because 6 of them were off 2 threes and when the game was well in hand with like 2 minutes left. He averaged 10 points a game last season. He averaged 7.5, I believe. I have his stats pulled up so I can double check that. But 7.5 points in conference play. He took a step back when they were playing better teams in American play. That to me, like just more questions than answers with Colby King. I don't see a world where he is much better, frankly. He hit double figures in American play twice. And now he's coming to the Big East, and you're going to ask him to play the same amount of minutes against better competition. Not to mention on the Tulane team, he didn't run point. They ran either Sion James, who's now at Duke, or Kevin Cross as kind of a point forward. Butler might ask him to run point. I don't know if he's ready for that. So asking a guy who played the 2 at Tulane and didn't play much in conference play to play the 1 and step up like 3 different levels and put up better counting stats than he did last year, I think that's asking a lot, quite frankly. I feel like I'm more pessimistic than most people in the Butler world about Colby King.
Is there a
That is-
world that Kapke starts over Andre Screen at some point this season?
Wouldn't surprise me, honestly, if especially like matchup wise, like when you play a team like Creighton, the way to beat them, as Butler kind of exploited, you need to run. You need a big who can pop out and hit a three, because Creighton runs that drop coverage the entire time. You have a big who can step out, hit a jump shot. It kind of changes a bit, but I would expect Screen to be the day in day out starter.
Back to the Colby King thing real quick and integrating him at the 1. Year 1 under Mata, they played 270th in the country in tempo. Last season, they flew up 150 spots to 120 in tempo. Was that more so just the team he had? Was it he wanted to change the identity of his team? And then this season, do you think because Colby King's not, super comfortable with the 1, they take a step back and, maybe run some more stats play, slower tempo?
I think year 1, it was actually more just based on the team he had. Like they were running Simas Lukosius a lot at the 4, and just kind of the guys they had. They were better in the half court, better in a slow down game. That's kind of the style Laval Jordan recruited for. Coach Motto was recruiting more fast tempo guys, and I think Colby King is one of those guys who excels in the open court because he's just so quick, so flashy, and he's able to get to the rim, and he's much more explosive athlete than like you. There are just a couple times where he can dunk off 2 feet, and you're just like, wow, I did not know he had that kind of bounce in him. I would expect this team to play probably a little slower than last year, but like in the same realm, if you know what I mean. Like maybe not 120th, but like 150th-ish in pace. That feels about right to me. But I wouldn't also be too surprised if Bizjack ran point. He ran point in high school for his AAU team too. There's one play he makes. He loves making this hook pass over the top. It gets stolen like half the time. But other than that, I think he's shown that he can legitimately run the point. And I think that's kind of what brought him back to Butler. Why he came back out of the portal is because he's going to have more opportunities to run the 1, where I think he'll show something. I think he can run the 1 a bit too. And then Telford probably runs the 1 a bit too, just because he can handle the ball and do literally everything.
Interesting. One other thing. I don't know if I'm being a hater for this, is my preface. I think Telford is a clear step above Pierre Brooks, in my opinion. You kind of referred to him as the beefy boys. I understand counting stats wise, but I mean, Brooks scored more points per game, and like, great story to see him like not really a factor. Michigan State comes here and like really elevates. Like he can definitely score. My problem with Pierre Brooks is like it just seems like he kind of is about him a little bit at times, and it's like he's just really looking to get his, and he can force a bit, and like he's good. I don't want to take away that he's not good, but like I can just sense him just like being a little frustrated with Colby King, or just just wanting to be the Pierre Brooks show a bit. And I just don't know if he's good enough for that. If that makes, I don't know if that's not fair, but just from what I saw with Butler, he was the guy that kind of stuck out to me sometimes. Is like he's good, but I just don't know how I feel about it.
I'm kind of with you. I would say largely I'm not, but like I can understand your train of thought. Yeah, there are times where Brooks will force a shot, but he was efficient from 3 last year. I believe he was around that 40% mark.
Yeah, 41, pretty good.
Yeah, but there were times where he just kind of stood still, like just kind of stood in the corner and wasn't moving off the ball. That particularly late in the season, and he just really wasn't driving to the rim at all late in the season. And it's like he's a big body. That guy can move people. The fact that he wasn't looking at the rim and just kind of sitting outside took away an element of Butler's offense that made them worse. And I think Telford's better than Brooks too, just because Brooks is the better shooter. Brooks is just is the better shooter. I think Telford's kind of better everywhere else. Telford's just he's good at everything. He's not great at one particular skill, but he's good at everything. He's kind of a generalist in that sense. Like Telford's a better ball handler. Telford's better defender, better rebounder, better passer. Brooks is just a better shooter. But I think Telford should be on an all Big East team this season. I'd be kind of surprised if he isn't. And then it's just the rest of the guys. Brooks will be able to score. It's just you need a third scorer, and then you need to bring it defensively. That's another question I have with this team. They weren't good defensively last year, and I don't know how they're going to get better defensively this year.
With a front court of Patrick McCaffrey and Andre Screen, I'm not super inspired by their ability to be good.
Yeah, and Posh Alexander was an excellent defender. Like, that is what he brought to the team. Colby King isn't that. Finley Bizjack isn't that.
Nick, any parting thoughts?
Nope.
Is there a chance that this team's worse than Georgetown or DePaul?
I don't think there's a chance this team is worse than DePaul. I think I'm a little higher on Georgetown than most seem to be, just because I think Malik Mack is awesome. And I think people underrate defensive transfers quite a bit, and Micah Peavy is that. The front court with both
I
teams
love
is a
Micah
question. He's so good. The front court with both teams is a question. Telford at the 4 is just levels above anyone Georgetown will attempt to run in the front court. It's
For sure.
Yeah, he just is. But the 5, neither team is great. But I think the backcourt at Georgetown is better. I think the ceiling of Georgetown is better. I think the floor of Butler is just quite a bit higher.
Do you think Butler makes it?
Really?
No, do you? I'm asking.
Oh, I thought you said. I thought you were.
I think they're going to finish in the similar range as they did last year. Maybe, yeah. So I'm going to say no, but I'd love for this team to make the tournament. Prove me wrong, but
they're like
I just don't feel they can be better than.
Yeah.
Like maybe they're better than Seton Hall, Villanova, or Providence, but like I just don't see how they're better than. There's no chance to me that they're better than UConn, Creighton, Marquette, St. John's, or Xavier. So it's like they have to show that they're better than the other mid-tier teams of Seton Hall, Villanova, and Providence, and like it's just hard for me to see unless something unexpected happens of like Telford or Brooks becoming like first team all Big East good, or Colby King proving us wrong, or Bizak taking a big step. Other than that, I just don't see how it's in the range of outcomes for them to be anything better than frisky mid Big East.
Yeah, you need someone to really step up and really surprise. I think the best candidate for that is Bizak. He showed enough flashes in last season, that Marquette game I've referenced a couple of times, and just kind of his high school tape. I still think the kid is, I think he can play, but you need him to, I think, take a decent step up to be better than last year and be competing for that tournament spot. Like, I think last season they could have made the tournament really. Bid Steelers definitely didn't help, but like there were just a couple bounces that didn't go their way. It's just like, yeah, I think this team is going to need to win a lot of those really close games, be like 7-2 in games within like 7 points. And then I think you're probably on the right side of the bubble, but like that's a very low percentage outcome in my mind.
Well, appreciate your time, Michael DeRosa. It's been a pleasure. You really know your stuff, and I appreciate you for that. I wish you the best, and hopefully, I know you're a Georgetown guy too. Hopefully, your teams do all right this year in this very loaded Big East.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate your time.
Of course.